All right, so this is going to be the 392 that's going in my dirt track car. Little backstory on this block. I actually made a video on this short block before. I went and picked it up down in San Antonio. Uh, the guy just thought it'd been a push rod. Got it home, spun a cam bearing, smashed some valves into pistons, broke the heads, bunch of stuff. Typical HEMI cam bearing failure. Jumps timing, bends all the exhaust valves. Sometimes it gets intake valves. Um, but and then it breaks the rocker pedestals out of the heads, or the shaft mount out of the heads. So that's happened to this. So let's put some new cam bearings in it. The cam bearing that did spin, it did go in easier than the rest, so there's definitely not as much press fit as normal. So I don't have high hopes for this block, so this is just kind of a budget thing. I'm just using all used parts. I reused the rod bolts, got used oil pumps, stuff. So nothing super fancy here, and we'll see how it holds up. This is a pre-BGE block, so I think they call them the Apaches or whatever. I don't really keep up with the names of all that stuff. It's not important to making power. So if you're one of those guys who's like, oh, that's the Apache, and you think you're spreading God's gospel, no one cares, only you. So the only thing that matters is making horsepower, winning races. Not if you know the name of something. Who gives a shit? So I'll bring the camera over closer, and then I'll show you guys kind of some, just some like cool things about the HEMI versus like a small block. Because I mean, most of the guys who watch my stuff are mostly small block Mopar guys. So I'll show you some of the neat stuff about the HEMI, and yeah, we'll go from there. All right, so here's like I said, I made a video about this block. If you go back, it's like cheapest HEMI build ever because I don't have very much money into it. It's all reused stuff. Like, I think the only thing new on it is this rear main seal because I ordered it for a customer and I didn't like the way it looked. Oh, look, it peeled right out of it. So yeah, we're gonna have to change that anyways. The new one just caught that. That's crazy. But I tore it all down and put it back together just to see how things are. Check the mains and stuff like that. All that looked good. So it's literally just a bone stock 392 stock rod. Still has the squirters in it. So we're going to see how that affects anything. So if we do have oiling problems, we'll definitely be able to plug that and then put more oil where it matters. So that's something we can think about. The Kevco oil pan, it came with studs. So that's why it has studs in all this for the oil pan. They're a 4-bolt main cap, so cross bolts, and 2 actual main bolts, so like a 426 HEMI for your old school guys. So that's pretty neat. That's what makes these things so strong. And they're deep skirted block, obviously. That's another big thing. Then your oil filter goes over here. That's my cam sprocket on there. I didn't bother taking it off. But yeah, that's your bottom end of the HEMI. So this stud is going to have to go over there for my oil pickup. They're front sump for Challenger Chargers and stuff, and then the trucks are rear sump. So, and the truck would be back here. Actually, I think it's the center one that it goes on the truck, but on the cars, it's always here. And then it got motor mounts like a small block Chevy that was just bosses on it. I think that 426 Chevys are like that too. I can't remember for sure. I don't think they have ears on the block, but I don't have any experience with one other than stuff I've seen on YouTube. So don't take my word for anything about those. But yeah, dang, that's crazy. I can't believe that happened. So I'm gonna have to pull that off. But and the name, it definitely looks like it messed it up, but I may just pull it off, oil this up, your flange, and go from there. But also see how it says 6.4 and stuff just on the sides. Normally it'd say like BGE somewhere, and then if it's a truck block, they're going to be black, and then obviously the car blocks are orange. So this is different orange than the BGE blocks. This is like I don't know. I'll show you real quick what the orange is. So that's the newer orange, a lot darker, and that's the older orange. So I'll roll this real quick. The lifter, or the cam tunnel, it's all enclosed. The lifters are underneath the head. And then, I don't know. So you can see some witness marks on the pistons where the valves hit, right there, 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 there. But yeah, and then these are non-MDS lifters. So this is a manual block engine. So these are actually factory MDS block offs. So the manual cars didn't come with them. And then, like if you have like an earlier Hemi, like the 08's down, if it came in a truck, then it didn't have MDS either. So in a 2500, 1500 did, 2500 didn't. And then these, I believe if they're MDS, they're either gray or black. But you can see how it's leveled. They're the same size lifter. If it's an MDS, I'll have like a big chunk somewhere, like not chunk, but it comes up more. It's easy to tell once. If you have MDS ones, you'll know. But and then there'll be like a hole in the lifter itself to let the oil in to collapse it. But yeah, so those are already on. It has been sitting a while. And there's the front stuff. That's an ARP bolt. That's not a factory one. Then we get over here. So this is what your oil pump looks like. That's a complete unit. As far as I know, the front part is all the same on them. And then just the relief spring is what changes between them. Like since these engines have oil squirters, they pump a lot more oil pressure than like a 5.7 would. Well, 5.7s don't have oil squirters. So that would be in there. That's your pressure relief. And this is your oil cooler. I put these AN fittings on. Normally it just has little nipples to put a hose on. And then this is your bolt for that. You need a long Allen to do it. So it goes in there like that. Then your oil filter screws on. These are your bolts for your oil pump. And then I have a disassembled oil pump just to show you guys. So all the screws on the backing plate are the same if you have to take it apart. And then your part number is going to be on your backing plate. And then this goes up this. So it'd sit in there. And then it goes up there. And that's what the oil pressure goes off of. So it pushes down on this onto this spring. The spring sits like that. And then this little cap goes in there to hold the spring. And that's what controls your pressure relief. And then this is what your rotors look like. So it is quite a bit different than a small block pump. So you see that sits in there. And most of these get pretty scored up, and I haven't really seen, like even one like this, I don't really see an effect on oil pressure. Usually Hemis keep great oil pressure. So I haven't seen too many problems with that. Then your rotor or gyrotor, I don't know the actual name for it. But these can be kind of tricky to line up when you're putting them on. So just something to pay attention for, because they can move all around, you can see. But that's your oil pump. Then time and chain, they're just a single roller from the factory. This is like a low miles one. It did smack the valves off the piston, so may have a little bit of stretch. May not be the safest thing to use, but in the name of keeping it cheap, that's what we're going to use. This is a factory cam bolt. So this is like a torque to yield bolt. So you do a certain amount of foot-pounds. I want to say it's like 40, but don't quote me on that. And then you do like 90 degrees or whatever. And then this is an ARP cam bolt that's had a pretty rough life, as you can see. So, but we're probably going to use this bolt because I don't like torque to yield stuff. Even though I spent a bunch of money on torque wrenches to do them, but screw them. And then this is for the pickup. So that's my pickup back there. This is from Kevco for their oil pan. They made this for me. So that's a nice unit. And then this is your cam phaser. So this is what gives it VVT. So the 09 up blocks 5.7, Hellcats, 6.4s, they all have this style. So they're really heavy. Not exactly the best thing for like circle track on and off the throttle, you know, a lot of whipping back and forth. But that's pretty much all we have right now. Blackbird, they do make one, but it's like $500, and that's like 3/4 of what I have into the engine itself. So we're not going to do that. Eventually when I build one, I'll definitely do that. But for this right here, then these are your two cam locks. So this is an 8-degree limiter that allows all this stuff to move 8 degrees. So obviously we're not going to use that one, but I just want to show it. And then this is a full lock. So as you can see, this is the only vane that actually touches against the outer cam gear. All the rest have a little thing. So this will go in there. I'll show this more in detail, but it's 150 inch-pounds. That's how it's written down, least torque. Do not pull this bolt out. If you get this, there's like a little tool that goes on there. You can see there, and there's directions. Like this is an MMX lock kit. That's what I use for everything. I mean, HHP sell stuff, Comp sell stuff. There's a bunch of people who sell stuff, but that's what I have is MMX. Kevco did supply another stud with the kit, and then these are studs for the intake. That's a washer for that. Crank bolt, harmonic balancer bolt, and then this is what a VVT looks like all disassembled. So, whoops. Cam sensor reads off of is these little windows, reads all that stuff. Then this spring is like what puts the cam back into place without the oil pressure, like telling it what to do. And then that's your little, I don't know what you'd call it. Have no clue what you'd call any of this stuff. But this is the part that actually mounts to the face of the cam or the nose of the cam. You can see this one spun and had a little dent. This one had a bad time. Pretty sure this is what that ARP bolt came out of. This one also came out of one that spun a cam bearing. Here's the outer piece. It goes like that. That goes around your cam. Doesn't really do anything. This has these to collect oil, I guess, because it runs on your plate. Then here's the other part of your cam gear. And then here's all those little vanes. So you have oil that comes through your cam and it like directs up through here and then pushes it a certain way. Like it'll push it there to advance or retard the cam. You know, a bunch of stuff over my head, but just kind of trying to show you guys what it looks like. But yeah, so I mean, this pretty self-explanatory as far as like a general overview, but you don't pull this bolt all the way out because that's the bolt that holds that spring. It'll sit on that little tab, and if you let that go, it'll unwind the spring, and you can't use it. And then same thing with this bolt hole here goes to that one. That one holds the spring up, so that's why you have these. Can't really see it, but it's holding the spring up. That's why it's on there. And then brake clean it, Loctite. I think it's a T27 Torx. So you don't get very many chances on these guys. So make sure you're putting good downward pressure on it, and 150 inch-pounds. Might do like a little time lapse showing it. And I'm also thinking eventually in the future, if you wanted to be cheap and have like an adjustable, this one's obviously junk because where the pin goes, it's not going to be solid. But I feel like you could fill those holes up, these holes, I don't know, with what, maybe JB Weld or something, or panel bond, and then that would block off that oil. So then that's another oil loss that you'd lose. Like it'd direct the oil better because you're not losing oil there. You'd probably want to do it in the camshaft, honestly. I don't know how the oil flow goes, but you know, anytime that you can get rid of a possible leak is pretty good. And then just weld it all up, weld it, you know, get it where you want it, put the cam degree it where you want it, and then just weld this solid to where you wanted. Obviously put the bolts in it, tighten it all up, like just to make sure it's all squared up, and then you could weld it to whatever degree you want. I haven't really seen anyone do that. I don't know why. Probably because they're smarter than me and they know better. But I think that is something I'm going to look into in the future, just as a cheaper alternative. But I don't know. I'm definitely going to get the Blackbird one and then maybe compare weights to them. And if this is lighter than the Blackbird style, maybe try that. But if the Blackbird one's lighter, then there's no reason to even bother with it. Just looking for, you know, advantage of cheap versus performance. That's relatively close. Might not be a bad option. You know, just a bunch of used junk going together. And oh, these are just my head gaskets I'm using. Forgot to mention these. These are just standard 6.4 Mopar gaskets. This is my crank sensor that I got to use, and then a temperature sensor. Then this is my So this would be in place of my clutch. So I have a direct drive transmission now. And then these are the bolts for it. Got these at Bailmetric. So if you're running a Burt coupler on a Hemi, those are the bolts you need. Show you again. Then Kevco, they modified this. Yeah, so I was right. So that would be like a standard truck one, that hole, and then they moved it back another hole. So that's where it go. This obviously needs a good cleaning. All this stuff's clean over here and ready to go together. These things, I definitely like recommend baking or something. Did I do that? No, but more of a do as I say, not as I do type of person because I'm lazy. But here we go. It's HEMI time. It's finally going together. It's taking forever. I haven't made a video in a while, so hopefully you guys enjoy it. I have a header video coming out, and then I took a video of the heads a while ago, so I'll try to throw that in here. But I'm going to set up on time lapse, do some of this stuff real quick, and then hopefully have a HEMI that's ready to go. So there's the directions for the VVT cam gear for your lock or your limiter from MMX. Then here we're just on the struggle bus trying to get this thing together. Even though you have that one bolt in and the tool to actually hold it, it still kind of moves away the bolt holes and it clipses it a little bit. So you got to fight with it to get the bolts back. You see there I made took an old timing chain and just welded it, and then you can throw a bolt in that upper timing cover. And then I use that as like a torquing tool instead of putting a bunch of tension on the tensioner and the guide there. And then a lot of the information that you see as far as like torquing and stuff, it's not right. Like especially Summit, stay away from Summit's torquing charts. That stuff's not right, or else you'll be breaking bolts on the timing chain tensioner and the guide. I think it's like 8 foot-pounds, and they say it's like 21 foot-pounds or something, so it definitely won't hold up to that. So just be weary of that, and I think it's pretty good from there. All right, so we got all this stuff on. As you can see, I was kind of messing with this, and then the front cover popped off with the spring. So yeah, I think we're just gonna run it like this. Well, obviously we are, because it's all on there now and torqued down. This ARP bolt's 135 foot-pounds. Use Loctite instead of ARP lube. Put ARP lube on the washer head. I added another washer to make up the distance for that cover with the spring in it. As far as I can see or think, which isn't very far, but I think I'll be fine without it. I don't really understand what the springs do when it's locked, because it's not like there's any oil holes showing or anything like that. So I think we'll be fine. If not, we'll find out pretty quickly. So then these dots, they line up with dots on the chain. You can look all that stuff up. All this stuff, 21 foot-pounds. You can see I had the pickup on. Forgot the oil pan gasket. Oil pan gasket goes underneath the pickup on these. So that's kind of a pain, but you gotta put the timing cover on. So put the timing cover on. Just want to show you guys that stuff first. That's on. This is 21 foot-pounds also. Crank sensor's in. That's impacted, good enough. Not really too worried about that. These are 20 foot-pounds at 120 degrees. Says in the right place. I was just gonna leave that stud in there. I can't remember why I took it out. Pickup tube wasn't hitting it, I don't think. Yeah, I don't remember. So this is actually the original one that came off this engine. Slap that on there, put some oil on, make sure that lip's not hanging out. Clean it up a little bit. Yeah, that's on there. And there's my timing cover. Gonna put the gasket on there, slap that on, put the studs in there, slap the oil pan on, and then it should be sealed up as far as bottom end stuff. And we'll go from there. Here we're just putting the front timing cover on and the oil pan on. My old lady came out to help, so what a pleasant surprise that was. I forgot to show the bottom of these heads. I thought I did a video when I was CCing them, but I don't know what happened to them. So they're resurfaced. I bought them off a guy. He brought them down to me, and they're pretty messed up. All the water passages got re-welded. The chambers got welded. They came out to 74 cc's, same as stock. So compression would be the same as stock, obviously. You saw the head gaskets. Those are normal 6.4 head gaskets. Stock rockers, stock springs. I believe, yeah. I know these are truck heads. So I don't know if the trucks use a different spring than the cars. But I could pull a spring off and do it, but I'm just gonna run it. I pre-oiled it. I have a pre-oiler. It's not like a small block where you just put like one of these in the oil pump. It's like a pressurized tank, and you just put it in a fitting and then pressurize it through. So that's how that is. I believe I showed these. It's got AN fillings welded. And then this is just your typical like 6.4, 392 oil filter, the 899. See, it's a Mopar one. Pretty sure it's just leaking oil from up in here. That's where I had that fitting. But yeah, need a harmonic balancer. I'm gonna need a water pump. Kind of screwed up the other one that I had. I may fix it. I don't know. But yeah, that's it. Can't remember what else I showed. Intake's bolted down. These are all studs on there that hold it. It's a Chemetic part number for this gasket. I don't know if I have it still. I think it's in the wrong box, but it's probably just like a 6.1 intake gasket. They're a little small, so I had to trim it a little bit. And what else did I do? There's no spark plugs in here yet, just coils are on there. The oil pan gasket, it didn't come with all the studs in it for some reason, so it doesn't have this corner stud in there. I don't know why that is. Don't ask me, but it's something you should look into before you do it. So you can just drill that out. You can see it's starting to warp the pan right there. So that's something that I got to do. I just ran a broken bolt on these heads. These heads, I don't know what happened to them, but someone had a field day with them. And you can see they just grinded all this stuff up. They took a wire wheel to everything. Someone definitely had fun with them. Hopefully they work. Hopefully they don't leak water. I can't believe I didn't remember to take a picture or anything. They're pretty rough looking heads. They were resurfaced, obviously, after they got re-welded, but someone put a bunch of time into them. Like I'm saying, they must have been bored. I think I paid like 150 bucks for them, so I didn't pay a ton of money for them. They had a fresh surface, so I'm like, screw it. Just stuff, so the push rod came out through there. So then when we did the other engine, I just gave him one of mine. And so now I have the broken one, so it's JB welded back together. Once I do get the distributor kit, I'm gonna do away with these and get some like Blackbird ones, or I have one of the aluminum ones off the real early Gen 3 Hemis, so hopefully I can find another one of those. The other one, the guy smashed at the junkyard for some reason. Don't know why they did that, but I got one. And I just threw that AN fitting in there, and one of the holes from the push rods just goes. I can do a breather. I'll probably just cap it for now. Melling, I went to this like seminar, and Melling was saying that these newer engines with the oil pump on the front of the engine, they need crankcase pressure to help push the oil up into it, like on like initial startup and stuff. I don't know if that's actually true, or that's just what the guy was talking about or saying during the seminar, but it's in the back of my head now, so I probably won't do it. But there's a valve cover. If you're wondering why it's so dull, I sandblasted it because it just had carbon. It came off like 200,000 mile engine, and it was just toast. So, but the guy claimed that he changed the oil all the time. It was like half an inch of just baked on carbon. So someone wasn't telling the truth. He's a cokehead, so it made no sense whenever he talked. So here's something I didn't think about. Slap the coils in there just to keep dirt out of spark plug holes. But it's a little predicament. So yeah, just thought that's funny, so I'll show you. So I thought I'd show you. God, can't talk. But I'm gonna knock that out and then just fill it solid with JB Weld. But, you know, can't say I didn't try.